Oh my god, is this good shit, bitch?
Why you look at that?
You better shut the fuck up, bitch. I'll knock your teeth all the way down your ass.
Phone rings. Hello?
Give me the fucking thing. Hello? Mind your own fucking business. Oh, hi, buddy. How the hell are ya? Oh, fuck yeah, I got 2 girls of my own, and Jim and Sonya are coming by. Oh, trust me, Sonya will work out. That snatch sucks cock like nobody's business.
What do you say?
I said mind your own business. Oh, I'm sorry about that, Phil. You know women. Can't kill 'em. Ha ha! Anyway.
Jason is my son, and today is his birthday. You can have dinner with us. My brother makes good head cheese. Candyman, I get cheese. Candyman, Candyman. We all go a little mad sometimes.
Hello and welcome to Two Guys, One Necronomicon, a weekly horror review podcast where we talk about all things horror. We talk about your cult classics to your modern day trash, and today is the day we are talking about a movie that no one has heard of, Rise of the Scarecrows. And before we get into it, I would just like to say, please, if you haven't already, follow us on Facebook at Two Guys, One Necronomicon. Follow us on Twitter and Instagram at Two Guys, One Necro. And if you can, give us a 5-star rating on Apple Podcasts.
We are your hosts, Brian Hotboy LaGrosta and Shane the Ass Blower Smith.
It's appropriate for this movie, so I'm not even going to complain about it.
What do you mean it's appropriate for this movie?
There's a lot of ass blowing at the brothel they're going to build.
That is true. Some characters in this movie, they do plan on building a brothel.
It doesn't go anywhere. Like everything else in this movie. Doesn't go anywhere.
So I just want to say, this movie has definitely a lower budget than several of the other movies that we've done throughout the course of this podcast.
If you took the budget away from every movie we've reviewed already, it would still be higher than the budget of this movie.
Well, what I will say is, this movie may not have a high budget, but it more than makes up for it in other ways. Great acting, great cinematography, and really overall, the director executes a great vision for this. This is just a purely fun, entertaining film with overall great production value for the money they put into building it.
Did we watch the same movie?
What are you talking about? I'm talking about Rise of the Scarecrows.
Yeah, Rise of the Scarecrows 2009. The one on Amazon for free?
Yeah, that's what I was going to say. I know it's on Amazon and Tubi for all who have not seen it. I would highly recommend it. It is a fun film. It's got some really good creepy moments. I thought it was terrifying. It's kind of like a ghost story, but the ghosts are really like scarecrows.
Yeah, we didn't watch the same movie.
What do you mean? It is a ghost story.
No, yeah, ghost and all this, nonsense, but this movie wasn't scary. It wasn't good. There may be one redeeming quality in this movie. It's funny.
No, the characters are very well developed, too. Like, some of them have some really good arcs.
I don't think the movie had an arc anywhere.
No, they have it's very good character arcs. You know, you got Pete, you got Officer Brown, you learn about his whole backstory, where he comes from, because he came from a city, now he's going to a small town, and that could be a very difficult transition, and they really let you feel the character's emotions, because he's leaving a lot behind, and he's got to reinvent himself after a really horrific incident that happened back in the big city.
They gloss over that in 2 minutes and then never touch on it again.
No, they really build it well.
Officer Brown stumbles over every line in this movie.
No, I think that the filmmakers here really chose the right people to play these roles. Anthony Brown, who plays Officer Brown, really just does a terrific job, knocks this role out of the park. Overall, excellent casting here.
Yeah, so now that I know we have seen the same movie, were you okay? Were you hit on the head while watching this movie? Because it's a train wreck in every sense of the word.
I think we just disagree, respectfully.
Okay.
I think this was an absolute thrill ride. The pacing, the shots, everything was carefully put together for this piece. It's just really a wonder. And I'm so thankful because I never thought I would be able to find this movie. I seen it when it came out back in 2009 and I wanted to be able to watch it again and show some people how brilliant it is. And Amazon picked it up and I was able to show them and they're like, wow, this is amazing. I got to see more of the director's work because this is horror at its finest.
Yeah, so this movie has been rated on IMDb by under 300 people. I think I said on our last review I thought it was under 1,000. It's actually under 300. If you go just off of that, we're two of like 280 people who've ever seen this movie.
Well, they just haven't rated it on IMDb. I'm sure it's a little bit more popular than that.
I doubt it.
I think that your criticisms, while you can be critical, they might be a little unfounded. Is that fair to say?
I don't think it is, but okay. There's really not much to talk about with this movie, so let's just jump right into the spooky pit.
In the spooky pit, police officer Anthony Brown leaves Springfield for Adams, Massachusetts as a respite from the crime. However, he soon finds out Adams has a scarecrow problem.
Accurate. I mean, that's a good summary. That's actually the entire movie. There's not much more to it.
So, we have not reviewed a lot of ghost stories on this podcast.
No.
Right? I think we did Unfriended was the only other one I could think of, right?
Yeah, pretty much.
And I think that this one might go down as like some of the top ghost movies with like Conjuring. Well, that's more of a demon movie. But we're talking ghost stories. This would go up there with...
Yeah, well, because what would you consider Insidious? I guess that's like a demon.
It's a demon, you're right. But this is also could be a demon.
Yeah.
Maybe this isn't a ghost story. They're kind of demons.
They're scarecrows.
Yeah, so I'll put this up there as one of the all-time great demon movies with probably like The Exorcist, Insidious, The Conjuring, even like Paranormal Activity. Even though it's found footage, there is obviously a demon involved, and it's definitely paranormal, which this also has an element of that too, with the scarecrows kind of rising back from the dead. This is an all-time great, and you're going to see why.
Yeah, because as soon as the movie opens, you see a girl walking down the side of a dirt road, and the movie is filmed. You know how there's the common joke, what did you film this on, a potato? I think they filmed it on the dirt the potato grew in.
The dirt of the potato? Shit, come on.
Because it's like a handheld camera you would get from like Kmart back then.
I always say, I don't really care about the production quality of a film. I care about the story. I care about the actors and the characters. And even though the quality's not 100% there, because this is still, a growing filmmaker, it's going to deliver.
She's like trying to hitchhike, and then a car pulls up to her, and then pulls away as soon as she gets close to the door.
Playing a prank on her.
Yeah, a little prank.
I just want to also say, everybody in this movie is a smoking hot 10. Girls, guys, everybody's hot.
No comment. Another car pulls up next to her, and this one allows her in. And you find out it's the sheriff of the town. Sheriff Howard?
Yes, Sheriff Howard.
And Sheriff Howard, he's like, oh, I'll get you some coffee. Welcome to Adams. But they drive past the diner.
Yeah, she doesn't really know where she wants to go. She's just hitchhiking for, like, the sake of hitchhiking.
Yeah.
And he's like, let's figure it out. Let's go to the diner. But like Shane just mentioned, they zoom past the diner, so he has some kind of ulterior motives for picking her up.
Well, she says, what's wrong with that place? And he's like, nah, I got another place. And she's like, please let me out. And he's like, no, trust me, we'll go somewhere.
She's being rude. Don't be rude. He's just giving her a ride. He's paying, so he gets to choose.
Yeah, he does say that. Then he just drops her off in the middle of the woods. At gunpoint.
Yeah, he pulls a gun on her. He tells her to get out, and then he drives away.
And then she walks into the woods. She sees something. You don't see it. She says, can you help me? Then screams. And we cut to what I can only describe as the worst song to open a movie ever.
You mean the song about drinking whiskey, jerking off, and watching porn?
Yes.
No, but it has like a certain small town charm to it. You know what I mean? Like it fits for this movie.
Alright, I will actually give you it fits for this movie, but it doesn't make it good, because this movie is not good.
No, it's got like a charm, and you see kind of like the rural town landscape, because they are in rural Massachusetts, pretty much 40 miles from any other town.
One of the lines in this movie is like, I'm jerking off on my sofa.
Yeah, like I said, there's a charm to it.
I think we have a different definition of the word charm. So now we cut to a man on a porch. This guy, we will learn, is Will. And his two friends, Carlos and Scott, pull up. Now, Carlos is a character, unlike any character ever. He's like the dickhead character, cranked to like not even 11. He's cranked to like 63.
Yeah, he's a big time jerk. There's no doubt about it. The guy plays the role extremely well. Like, you want someone to be an asshole? This is your asshole, Carlos.
Yeah, but like, it's unrealistic.
You think so? I mean, I've had some friends that have been pretty big dicks. But yeah, we get that.
I don't. I also don't know who this friend is you're referring to.
I don't either.
The whole thing here is like, they tell the guy, Bill, that his ex-wife is a bitch, and that they need to go on a road trip, and to get him as much pussy as possible on this road trip, because his ex-wife, Maureen, is a bitch. The word bitch is thrown around so much in this movie.
That's true. There's a lot of cussing in this movie, which is probably one of the only things I don't like about the movie. I feel like there's a lot of unnecessary cussing.
The whole movie is unnecessary. Not only, like you said, the cussing, but like, every female character in this movie is referred to as a bitch.
I mean, that's true. And I would say a lot of the characters are wrong in saying that, because some of the ladies are sweet. However, 50% of those girls are just a bunch of bitches, and that's why I would refer to them as bitches.
One of the things with this movie, yeah, alright, we're critiquing a movie that's budget was like $5, but none of the characters are likable. Like, there's not a likable character in this movie.
Well, I think it's because of the mystique of the town, because there's so much shit going on. There's so many layers to this film that you really gotta unwrap, like, what's the psychology of each of these characters? What has led them to this point?
Okay. Well, anyway, Bill agrees finally go on this road trip, and literally, like, 3 minutes into the road trip, the car breaks down.
Yeah, it, like, overheats, and it does this often.
So they pull over, and Carlos is like, oh, Carlos is here to save the day. Then berates Japanese cars, and says, dude, you should have got a Chevy. I can't solve this Japanese car problem.
You know, this is interesting, because someone told me, and this could be really wrong, because I know nothing about cars, but apparently American cars are much easier to fix than Japanese cars.
I actually have no idea. I'm not a car guy either.
That's what I heard.
Well, Carlos is on your side with that. But then Bill brings it to his attention. He only bought this car because Maureen liked it. And then Carlos says, that was your first mistake. Women know nothing about cars.
Well, that's a little bullshit. I know actually a couple of women mechanics, but that's just the character. Like I said, the guy's just an asshole.
Yeah, he definitely is. Alright, so another thing I'm gonna kind of say here. This movie kind of has this thing where it cuts the scene to scene with like any like transition. We're at a place, we're at a place, we're at a place, we're at a place.
You think it's out of place? I think it's actually very creative because they constantly chop up story.
Okay.
So you're getting a piece here, you're getting a piece there, and it's all gonna blend together. Every story blends perfectly together with each other, and they all culminate to the ending of this film. So there's a really good build-up being driven.
I don't mean to put you on the spot, but what about Mike's story, the guy we're going to meet soon? How does his culminate with everyone else?
I mean, he'll take you right into the woods, and you're going to find out when he gets there.
Okay. Like I said, now we cut to the police station, and we have the police chief, Howard, and he's got a new recruit, Officer Brown.
Officer Brown, like I mentioned earlier, he comes from a big city, so he's got that big city experience of policing.
He comes from Springfield.
He's gonna bring that mentality, that harshness, to the small town of Adams.
And the police chief says that Adams follows a higher law. Now, we don't know what this higher law is, but I also don't care.
And Brown is very respectful of that. First of all, he's very overqualified for this position. He understands that.
Well, yeah, because the sheriff even says, what brings you to this shithole department?
Yeah. And he agrees. He takes the job. The sheriff welcomes him to the team. And now he's now on the Adams police force. A police force that is a small department, but they mean business.
So now we cut to what is the best scene in the movie. This is a scene I actually like. And it's not because it's a good scene, but it's one of those scenes that is so bad. It is so funny. It's funnier than a comedy.
This movie is very funny. There's no doubt about it, because the characters are very well written, and they're very humorous. One of the two funniest characters, in my opinion, you're gonna get introduced to right here. His name is Mike, and Mike, in this movie, he's trying to set up a brothel. He's trying to create a brothel with this guy, Jim, who you'll see later.
And Sonia.
And Jim's girlfriend or wife, Sonia.
Yeah. I think it's his wife.
I know that she's definitely primed up for the brothel.
Yeah. So we get introduced to Mike while he's looking at tranny porn on the internet.
And he's kind of into it.
He is. He says that's some good shit.
But his girlfriend, she's got a very broken accent. I don't know if she's a part of the brothel or like what her purpose
I think she's supposed to be part of the brothel.
Maybe for the exotic, she's like foreign.
I guess. I don't know.
I don't know if they're going for like a demographic thing.
Like I said, this movie technically doesn't explain anything, so...
I mean, this is something that you could definitely build your own interpretation. We don't have to nitpick everything.
Okay.
I think you're being a little harsh with the nitpicking.
You know what, Bri? Shut up, bitch, or I'll knock your teeth all the way down to your ass.
Yeah, Mike is a little aggressive with his girlfriend, threatens her. And like I said, it's in our reality, this is despicable, but in their reality, it makes sense because she's being a nagging bitch.
Yeah, so the phone rings and she answers it and he slaps her where it's so fake because he moves his hand, then she moves her face and there's no noise.
Here's the thing, I was thinking about this too. I'm like, wow, did they skip a sound effect? But no, the slap is so swift, you can't even register sound.
So, like, it breaks the sound barrier? That's how quick it's going?
Did you see how fast he just picks his hand up and you don't even see the motion? It's just a very quick slap across her face.
Yeah, alright. I guess I'm not going to argue it. It's Jim on the phone. He says, like, they're going to put the Bunny Ranch out of business. And then she goes, I'm sorry for saying it like this, but it's exactly how she says in the movie. She goes, what the Bunny Ranch? And then, I'm going to do it. He goes into this tirade. Mind your own business. He's like, if I hear one more word out of you, you're leaving this house
In a box!
She's like, what do you say? What do you got? Shingers, bonehead? And then he basically beats her with the phone without touching her and without any noise.
Well, you really can't get a good look at it. He is hitting her on the top of the head because he's really set off by this. Unfortunately, this is like domestic abuse and it's kind of crazy, but it just shows you the animosity and the anger that he has, and he has to really get rid of this aggression. Unfortunately, it's a bad tool and he's using it out on his girl.
I don't even think it's domestic abuse because he has to hit her first.
Yeah.
He never makes contact with her. He's supposed to be hitting her. It doesn't look like he is.
But I mean, like, it doesn't really make that much sound when you slap someone in the flesh. I mean, like...
He's beating her with a phone.
Yeah, but you're slapping the arm. I mean, like, it's not gonna make that much sound. Like, what do you want him? You want to hear those, like, those Jackie Chan and Jet Li chops?
Let me beat you with my phone right now and let's see what noise it makes.
I've been beaten with a phone before.
So we come back to the sheriff's office, and it's Barb, right? The secretary?
Yeah, Barb.
Okay. She asks if they want any coffee.
She's being very sweet. This is some of the sweet people in this town. Not everybody's sweet. Not even the sheriff's that sweet.
But this scene is also so dumb because, like, Officer Brown's like, yeah, I would like some. The sheriff is just like, don't get any ideas, Brown. I don't like any inter-office mingling.
I mean, it's Brown's, like, first day. He's already, like, showing some interest.
I think he just said he wanted coffee.
He gave her an eye, though.
But Brown is divorced, and he ain't looking for any of that. He's taking some time off from women.
Yeah, no longer wants to date.
Yeah, that doesn't matter. Literally doesn't have anything to do with the movie. But we do find out that Pete has called in them to come visit because he has some kid problems again. And now we cut to Pete.
I want to establish this because you said kid problems. He's not like a kid rapist or like anything like that. There's nothing like that. Pete is a hardworking American, a patriot, if you will.
Yeah. You're saying that because the entire movie he wears an American flag hat.
He's a patriot, he's a great painter, and the kids are fucking with him all the time. It's bullshit, and if I were him, I'd have enough too. It's insane. Like, you see this large kid come, right? And the large kid, I say large because he's bigger, flips him the bird, 2 birds on 2 fingers, and then just runs off. You think Pete deserved that?
Well, yeah, because he's reading the 60 Greatest Conspiracy Theories of All Time book.
Because he's putting things together. There's a lot of weird shit going on, and he is a conspiracy theorist, but things start to make sense. There's a reason why he's reading this book.
Well, alright. So now we have to talk about this, which I want to see you defend this now. Because Pete's character, most of the time is by himself, but he narrates everything he does in his life. Like, after the kid flips him off, he's got, those goddamn kids, the fucking kids gotta get the fuck out of here. They're just always fucking bothering me. You know, I'm gonna go inside and get some coffee, you know, get one of those good blends. He's like, you know, it's good to the last drip. And then he pulls out this thing, and he's like, what is this? This Max's blend drip house? Is the house that drips? Like, what is this shit? He's like, I heard it's good to the last house.
So one thing he's not good at doing is reading coffee cans. That I'll give you. Because he cannot read this coffee can at all. Clearly, it's Maxwell's House coffee. He's saying it's some kind of Maxwell special blend, drip house, Maxwell coffee. Like, he can't get it right.
No, but like, his character even counts the scoops out loud. He's like, 1, 2, 3, 4.
That makes sense, though.
No, but then like, he knows the audience is listening. He goes, I like it strong. 5, 6,
this movie does
7.
It's a cool style is what it is. Usually narrations are something you don't actually audibly say.
Yeah.
The character like won't audibly say, but I've seen a technique used in several films. I'm not going to say one of them because I know you'll trash it even though it's this brilliant film, where the character narrates the actions. So this character is one that in any scene he's in, he's going to narrate what he's doing. And I think it works for the setting and tone of this film.
You're out of your mind. Like, it took 18 episodes for you to lose your mind.
I didn't lose my mind. I just think we firmly disagree on this movie. I think this is really a good piece of art, and I would love to have seen this at a festival somewhere, because I think this could really do some good. This is a script that could change some heads.
Okay.
I firmly believe that.
Well, great, because now we cut back to the police station where Barb said the same thing she originally said, where a fat fuck is bothering Pete, which this has already been established. So then Brown and Howard, they go for a walk. They talk about how they need money in the budget to get a new car, because he's not even driving a police car. He's driving a Chevy Cavalier, because they obviously couldn't get a police car, because not only do they not have a budget for a car, they don't have a budget to make a movie to begin with. I get it. I'm being mean to someone who this is their first movie. As 2 guys here who have made movies before, I get the budget constraints. You don't have that kind of budget.
No, you don't.
But we didn't put our movie on Amazon.
Well, we didn't have a chance to do that. And if I did, I would love to showcase our movie on Amazon. But, I mean, for their first or second film, this is just, I was like dumbfounded how incredible this script was. Everything from top to bottom was just like, whoa, this is something special. And I couldn't wait to get it on the podcast. Obviously, we were talking about it. It's just, we need to get this on ASAP.
Oh, no, I agree. Because, like, when we saw this movie in 2009, I'm like, dude, in 11 years, we're going to do a podcast, and I can't wait to talk about this movie. And now it's that time. So now, here we go. I'll just keep throwing these things at you, because now to defend this scene, we cut to a guy selling fruit with a dinner tray.
You're talking about Rufus, right?
Yeah, Rufus. Which you don't learn his name till the end of the movie.
No, you don't. But he's making a living. You know, tough times. He's selling, I think...
Tomatoes.
He's selling tomatoes for, what is it, $0.25 a piece?
It's...
Wow.
I'm doing the Rufus stutter.
Wow.
It's 5 tomatoes for $1.
You sound like Billy from It.
25 cents for corn, or $1 for 5 taters.
That's actually wild. I think he does a good job here. Not you, Rufus.
Uh-huh.
He plays, obviously, the stereotypes like this redneck who lives out in, like, the boonies of Massachusetts, but he plays it well. Like, that's the role. And he executes it. He's got, like, this little stutter. I don't think he was missing any teeth, but, you know, he does it well. He's got the suspenders on and the whole thing.
You're killing me. I'm actually dying from listening to you talk. So then the fat guy comes out, and he's like, how much for your taters? And then out of nowhere, you know he's gonna fuck with him. He's like, you doing pig wrestling? You fuck sheep, son? You fuck sheep?
Yeah, Carlos is so messed up. They don't even have to go near this guy.
They could have just kept driving. Why did they stop just to fuck with this guy? Considering Carlos is the only one who wanted to fuck with him, and Carlos wasn't even the one driving the car.
Like, you ever meet those people that are just so messed up, they'll just do something fucked up for the sake of being fucked up? There's no purpose behind it.
But, like, he's supposed to be, like, one of your main characters that I guess you're supposed to care about?
Well, this is the thing. Carlos needs redemption. He is a fucked up guy. And this is what I'm talking about. This movie is a great character arc because he's fucked up now, but at the end of the movie, he's gonna come in a big way and help the squad.
Yeah, I doubt that. He goes back to the car, and the guys like Scott and Bill are like, yo, you gotta go apologize. So then, in just genius film working, I'll take this and say it. It's genius. Carlos pegs him with a tomato.
Right in the head. This guy's like a marksman.
For some reason. And I don't know why they thought this was a good idea. Rufus says, you fat fuck. Then it cuts to him saying, you fat fuck. And then it cuts to him again, you fat fuck. And why did they have to show him saying that 3 times in a row?
Are you asking me that question?
Yes, I am.
Every time they do it, so that, like, he says, you fat fuck, and then they zoom in even closer, it just shows you how angry he is. It gives you, like, with every zoom in and every time he says, you fat fuck, gets you closer into his psyche to know, like, what he's thinking. Because you're just gonna come here and you think you know this neighborhood better than I do. I lived here my entire life, you fat fuck. You know what I'm saying? So, like, they zoom in. Maybe he's had some history being fucked around with. I just think it's uncalled for, and I'm happy he called them a fat fuck. 3 times.
Anyway, cut to the next scene, because like I said, we just go from spot to spot to spot. The 2 officers are talking to a man named Dickie, who is now the town mechanic. Dickie is also one of the directors of this movie.
His name is Gino McGahee?
I guess we should also mention Will, part of the 3 kids, is also one of the directors of the movie.
Correct. So there's dual directors.
Just so you guys know. Now, the sheriff is asking Dickie if he's got any cars, and Dickie's like, no, nothing. And then he makes him give him the 2002 Malibu, and Dickie is not happy. No,
he's so unhappy with this, he actually hits the car he's currently working on with a wrench.
Now, I have a question.
Yeah.
Because don't they still just drive the Cavalier the rest of the movie?
No, I thought they take the Malibu. They don't take the Malibu?
Do they actually change? Is it a different car?
Yeah, I thought they changed it.
Okay, maybe it is. So, that scene's over already. The 3 kids' car breaks down again. And it dawned on me. I'm like, how did they fix the car the first time?
Oh, so how they fixed the car the first time? So the idea behind this is the car actually overheats and stalls, so they let it, like, a resting period to cool down, and then they actually restart it, like, over time, and it's okay again.
And now it's just overheating again?
You fix it, you give it some time to settle, and then after a cooling period, you can start it back up. It just gets too hot. Like, you're playing a video game system?
Yeah, you gotta blow on it. So then the sheriff pulls up, and he's like, you guys could go stay at the campground 2 miles back. He's like, I can have a mechanic come look at it tomorrow. And now this is another piece of shit, because obviously, why can't a mechanic come today? And the sheriff says, it's Sunday, that's the Lord's Day, our mechanic doesn't work. But the scene before was the mechanic working.
Oh, he's lying.
Yeah,
he's lying.
He is. Mm-hmm. But, like, you don't know that now. Now it just seems like he's an idiot.
Like,
I'm saying, like, going into the movie later on, you know the sheriff has ulterior motives.
Of course.
But at this moment in time, You don't understand why the sheriff would be lying, I guess.
Yeah, I see what you're saying.
So it kind of just doesn't make sense at this point. I guess it does later.
For me, I think the sheriff is built as a bad guy from the very beginning. From the very first scene.
Yeah, with the way he talks to Officer Brown.
That, and also just dropping the girl off in the woods.
That's true. That is true. Yeah, he also tells them, because they asked to walk.
Yeah.
And he's like, the next town is 40 miles away. It's Orange, like the fruit.
Yeah, Orange, Massachusetts, I'm guessing?
Yeah, that's what I assume.
Thing about Orange is it's actually even smaller than Adams, and people actually flock to Adams from Orange, but they never leave.
It's true. Sup, slut? Oh, if you didn't know what that was, it's me cutting to the next scene instantly with that line that opens it.
Yeah, because Jim and Sonya are meeting up with Mike, and Mike is a dick, so he just sees Sonya and literally delivers that. So Jim can't even introduce his girl, because Mike's just like, what up, slut?
Mike's like, she's a whore who can suck a bowling ball through a garden hose.
Apparently, Sonya is primed and ready for this brothel business.
Yeah, but Jim's like, yo, dude, that's my wife? And Sonya is actually pregnant. I mean, Mike says, like, probably one of the most evil lines in the movie. He's like, dude, abortion. Punch her in the stomach. Throw her down some stairs. Shove a coat hanger in her pussy. Whatever it takes.
Where did the Italian accent come from?
I don't know.
But you're right. Yeah, so it's kind of fucked up. But like I said, this guy is doing anything he can to make $1. And he thinks this is $1 million investment.
Yeah, and Jim's having none of that because Jim is just like, yo, the deal's off, Mike. And then he leaves, and that's it. That whole storyline ends in a matter of seconds. It didn't need to exist.
He just needs to find a new business partner, and he's gonna try to do that.
So now we cut back to the three guys in the woods, and they're setting up camp without having anything to set up.
Yeah, so, I mean, obviously these guys were not going camping, so they have no camping equipment in the car, but they need to set up camp, so they're really gonna be camping with nothing.
So they're not setting up camp. They're just in the woods.
They do mention that they're setting up camp, but they're not.
That's what I'm saying.
They're really just setting up an area to camp in without equipment.
But they're not camping. They're just three guys who are going to lay in the woods.
No, I get that.
Yeah.
I'm just telling you that that's what the characters are saying. They are saying it incorrectly, but I think that's just the characters themselves. They're not, I guess, the most educated.
Because why wouldn't they just stay in the car?
Yeah, you'd probably be better off sleeping in the car than in the middle of the woods.
See, I got you. See, you couldn't defend that one.
No, I'm defending how dumb the characters are.
Okay. Well, anyway, while they're doing this, whatever you want to call it, Scott goes, oh, I saw a scarecrow.
Yeah, Bill or Carlos, I think it's Bill. He's like, that's just probably the Adams townspeople is being bored. How many cool things could you do in Adams? It's a small town.
Yeah. So then a thing happens where I've realized it's kind of been an ongoing thing. A guy comes up and he's like, hi, I'm Michael Andrews. And it made me realize every character gets a first and last name introduction. Because when Barb first tells him, she's like, Pete Carmichael is calling. And then even Officer Brown, he's like, my full name is Tony Brown or something like that. It's not important. It's just like, it's a weird ongoing thing where they introduce each other with like first and last names.
I can kind of see what you're saying here because it's like a small town. How many people have the same names?
Also, why would a guy in the woods instantly introduce himself with first and last name? Wouldn't you just be like, hi, I'm Mike or something like that?
Well, maybe they heard about his story because Michael Andrews has a story to tell.
Yeah, what story is that?
Well, this first gets introduced because he says, you don't want to stay here after dark. There's a force that happens in the woods after dark. And Carlos is like, what happens after dark? He's like, do you start beating people with your purse or your fishnet stockings?
Which makes no sense.
He's wearing a backpack, kind of calling him like a bitch, I guess.
But it's just a regular backpack.
I know. Michael says, listen, mother trucker, what's your issue? And then he goes into the story.
He's the first guy who doesn't, curse, because he says mother trucker twice, I think.
Because I think he's not from the town. He's much more polite than people here.
Yeah.
I mean, the other kids are out-of-towners too, but obviously they're just fucking dicks.
Well, not all of them. Bill seems like a normal guy.
That's true. Bill's just getting over heartbreak. Then Mike does go into the story. 2 years ago, his brother disappeared. How he knows it was from this town? His brother called Mike from a payphone in Adams, and he just knows he's dead.
Yeah. He kind of goes into the story of how 8 years ago, construction workers disappeared in the woods, and the sheriff and the good old boys are the ones that, made them disappear, and then the construction workers came back as scarecrows. And then he's like, yeah, I'm here to find out what happened to my brother.
I could be wrong. I think they show, the viewer will get, a little sequence here of the scarecrows, coming back from the dead, popping out of the ground. Is this real Romero stuff here with the coming back to life?
Don't you ever compare this to Romero stuff.
Alright, well, nothing's Romero stuff, but you kind of get what I'm saying. Like, it's a really cool shot of the Scarecrows plunging out of the ground, like, coming back to life. They're not zombies. They're more of, like, these demons or, like, a ghost even. But they actually show them popping out of the ground, and it's a really cool sequence.
It isn't. So next, we cut back to the police officers, and they are finally getting to Pete's house, because why not? Pete offers them coffee, and he once again says, this is that Maxwell's drip coffee, it's good to the last house or some bullshit.
So he constantly keeps talking about the coffee, and he can never get it right. And it took me a while to go, I'm like, how can you not understand what the coffee says? But he's isolated, he lives by himself, nobody likes him. So you can see how he can kind of keep misconceiving things.
Then you realize Pete has been drawing pictures of scarecrows the past month. And I actually don't remember exactly how he equates this, but he's like, yeah, it could be scarecrows, or it could be camel-riding terrorists.
Yeah, he does mention that. Because, to be honest with you, the scarecrows have these, like, sacks over their head.
Yeah.
Potato sack?
Yeah, it's a scarecrow sack.
They're really creepy scarecrows, by the way. Terrifying. Probably the scariest thing I've ever seen. But not only that, he's been seeing these things around lately. And he's like, scarecrows are kind of the flavor of the month. And they're just some scary bastards. And he's got like these very vivid paintings. So, I don't know if it's a lucid dream, Shane, but I have a feeling he's seeing them outside of his house. But it's very difficult to tell when kids are kind of vandalizing his property 24/7. And they must go into extreme lengths. And you'll see later, because he thinks they actually just go in his house and terrorize him. Mm-hmm. But he's always on the verge of, like, going outside and cussing a kid. I actually think when they first go into his house, they knock on his door, and he opens the door. He's like, fucking kids! You fucking brats!
Yeah.
Where are you little bastard shithead pricks?
Yeah, I think that's actually a direct quote. So, while they're talking, the sheriff has to go use the bathroom. As soon as the sheriff goes to the bathroom, Pete tells Officer Brown, you have to leave real quick. Strangers don't last long in this town. God has forsaken us. Demons are taking over, and the sheriff may be in on it.
Yeah, he tells him, please, go into the sheriff's office and look at his files. Yeah, he's telling him, he's like, it's not scarecrows, it's demons killing people in the woods. So the woods are killing people. He realizes it, and now you know, it's not even like a dream. Like, he's actually seeing this happen.
Yeah, so the sheriff comes back, and he kind of hears the end of this conversation, and Pete's like, oh no, we were just discussing Max's drip coffee. Good to the last house. And that's it, I promise. So the sheriff and Officer Brown are leaving, and as they're leaving, Pete goes, if Officer Brown tells you anything other than we were talking about coffee, he's full of shit. He's a liar.
Yeah, he's got to protect himself. The sheriff is a big bad guy. He's got control of the entire town. This is a really strong police department of 2 people, but if you step out of line, they're going to get you and they're going to bring you down. And he wants to protect himself because he knows the sheriff's in on it.
Now, please
explain to me
why we cut to Rufus playing guitar just to instantly cut back to Pete in his home.
I'm happy you asked, Shane. Because, as a fan of film, I thought of it myself. I'm like, this seems a little out of place, right? He's getting ready for a big date. And you'll find out later. Later, they'll bring it up. And that's what's so cool. Like, they're setting stuff up for later. Like, you don't even know what's going on. He's going on a big date with a very special lady.
Is he? Alright, you know what? I'll allow it, despite disagreeing. But anyway, we're back at Pete's house, like we haven't even left, because we barely have. Pete is painting more scarecrows, he paints like a child.
I think he's got some skill. I'm not going to say he's like Picasso, but I think he's just a step down.
So, it comes into play even more, where Pete isn't a character in a movie. Pete's a man that they put a camera on without his knowledge while he just rants to himself.
I think this is the first time we're probably going to find some common ground here. Pete is, I get it, he's like that kind of kooky character, that's by himself, He's kind of maybe even going mad a little bit, and always has to narrate his experiences, and like I said, I think that's just a filmmaking technique, kudos directors, but it seems like he doesn't even know what's in his house.
Well, yeah.
He doesn't know how to work the stove, he doesn't even know what's in his pantry, even though he's probably bought these things before, he doesn't really know what they are or how to pronounce them, so how I'm perceiving this in my head is that he might be going senile.
Yeah, because he's like, I'm just gonna paint. Maybe I should make some dinner now. Put the water in the pot. Then his door opens. He's like, those fucking kids opening my door.
Little bastards, pricks, those fucking kids.
Goes and closes the door, comes back. He's like, shit, the back door's open now. Gotta go close the back door now. So he goes and does that. Mind you, he's saying even more of what he's doing. It gets to the point where he's almost like, left foot, right foot, left foot. That's how I walk.
I think that it's very important to really discuss everything. He's doing so many things at once. There's so many things going on in the story right now. He does need to break it down so the audience can kind of think, okay, I get it now. That's what's happening. I don't want to be overloaded. Thank you, Pete Carmichael.
Well, now the Scarecrows are in his house, and he doesn't notice, because he's filling the pot with water, and then he says, tuna au gratin. What the hell is an au gratin?
Yeah, and that's what I'm saying. Like, he definitely has had to buy these before, right?
Well, that's the next line, which is even stupider. He goes, lasagna? What the hell is that? Shit, that's some Italian shit, lasagna? One, how did he bought it?
Correct. I think he's going senile. Like I said, a lot of time spent by yourself. You're either going insane. Remember, he's like seeing all kinds of crazy things. Demons. These kids are constantly fucking with him. Like, after a while, you're just like, fuck it. What the hell is that word? Lasagna? I don't even know what it means, but I'll make it.
So anyway, the lights go out, and he's like, shit, damn, kids must have blew my fuse. So he goes to the basement. He's like, I'm gonna go to the basement. And now he finally doesn't narrate. You get like 2 minutes of flashlight in the basement looking around.
I think he forgot where his fuse box was, in all honesty. He probably doesn't have to go down there often. The kids do mess with him, but how many times are they gonna take out his fuse box?
Yeah, I think I saw a bench press thing down there while he was...
It's a basement. You've probably seen a bunch of shit down there.
So he fixes the fuse, he goes back upstairs, and then he realizes his easel and his lasagna is on the floor.
Yeah, the painting of the Scarecrows he was working on is also down there. Like, everything's a mess up there. And obviously, conclusion is, these little bastard kids, these little pricks fucked up my shit.
But it wasn't them, because he gets surrounded by 3 So here's another thing. They emphasize at the beginning, it was 8 construction workers. There's only ever 3 Scarecrows in this movie.
Yeah, because I think the good old boys and the sheriff do away with 3 of them. Not all 8. I know there's like 8 of them, and I know they were causing problems, but I think they mentioned that it was 3 that they put down so the legend goes. That's why there's 3 that come back.
See, I missed that because...
No, you're right, though. They do say there's 8, which is why I would question, like, even why they would even say 8. But of the 8, 3 are the ones that the sheriff, the good old boys, you know.
Yeah. Then the Scarecrows throw him to the ground and beat him with no impact. They, like, swing their stuff, but they're clearly not hitting him. And then they pan back to his body, and it's just covered in blood.
No, I would actually disagree. I think this is a really bloody scene, and one of the more gorier scenes in the film. They kind of just start slashing him up. And there's like an intense droning sound that kind of occurs throughout this whole scene. Because it is very scary. He opens a light and he sees them there surrounding him. If I'm in this, I couldn't even imagine the terror that I would feel if I seen these 3 creepy looking Scarecrows surrounding me with no way to escape.
They're not even creepy. They're guys in flannels in a sack over their head. They don't even have straw or hay. Because
they're like supposed to be the construction workers, right? So they're supposed to like dress outdoorsy.
Okay.
But they have these sacks on their head. And I'll be honest with you. It's very Leatherface. So it's definitely, it's very spooky.
Okay. Well, that scene ends and we cut to the 3 kids walking in the woods. You realize, because you see Scott on the ground, they actually just slept on the dirt with no sleeping bags, no nothing, because like we said, they didn't have it. So why wouldn't they just go sleep in the car? Why would you just lay in the dirt in the woods?
Weather must have been nice. They found like a little clearing to camp out in.
There's bugs and animals.
Quotation marks on the camping, I get it. But like I said, I don't think these 3 guys are very smart. I mean, you'll find out later the one Bill guy has been having some issues with his marriage, unemployment. Carlos, obviously, he just doesn't care. He just wants to have a good time and fuck around with everybody.
And Scott just exists.
Scott just is there with like a Red Sox cap.
So Carlos and Bill go back to the car and Scott stays sleeping on the ground. And then they say the wires have been cut. And there's just twigs in the engine.
Because I think what they mentioned is their idea was to get the car started. Like I said, they're going to wait till it cools down, start up the car. But now they indefinitely cannot start up the car because the wires are cut and there's hay stashed under the hood.
So we cut back to Scott, and Scott is killed. You just get a POV of something walking up to him. He opens his eyes, screams no, and then screams no. And in the same way that the Rufus guy screamed fat fuck, where it's just like the same scene, but just keep cutting and showing it over and over. And I don't know if they thought that was like cool or like
it's artistic.
artsy.
It's artistic.
Yeah, it's not. It's not. It's awful. It's stupid. It's really bad filmmaking.
Here's the thing, like an artistic style scene in some movies is not going to work, but in this scene, it kind of just fits perfectly. It fits the mold of the entire movie. You see him say no, zoom in. No, and like another zoom in. Again, it's just more of the terror on his face as he's waking up. He thinks his friends are there. It's not his friends. He even says it. He's like, what the fuck are you guys? And then he sees these 3. And when I say it, I keep saying it. horrifying scarecrows. Oh my god. Like, I actually thought I was gonna get nightmares after watching this. I'm not even kidding. They're really scary.
I have nightmares about you talking positively about this movie. That's my nightmare now.
This is like one of those things where everybody's scared, I guess, by something different. And scarecrows just are one of those things where, like, even as a kid growing up, like, I never wanted to see a scarecrow. Terrifying. 'Cause I always thought they would come alive from, like, out of the cornfields. And now to see them, like, alive, it's almost traumatizing.
This isn't Scary Stories to Tell in the Dark. This is Rise of the Scarecrows. A very, very bad movie.
I've actually never seen that, so I can't make the comparison,
Okay.
but I'm sure this is better.
We cut back to Bill and Carlos, and Bill's like, Maureen left because I was unemployed for 6 months. She left for an older man who makes $100K and owns 2 homes.
And he's much older than her.
Yeah.
But I mean, again, I can't blame Maureen. What are you doing for 6 months? Get off your ass and get a fucking job, you loser.
It's tough, I guess, you know. It depends on his situation, you know. It's not easy to get a job in the middle of nowhere, Massachusetts, probably.
It's not, but what if he's not trying? I guess we don't...
We don't know.
He apologizes. It seems like he was not making an effort.
Well, yeah, he is a loser. He's hanging out with Carlos. So, once again, we just instantly cut to the vegetable guy, Rufus, and he's discussing what a Houdini is to 2 of his friends.
Yeah. And this is where you find out that he was setting up for this big day, he had special plans, and he did this Houdini to this girl. And what a Houdini is, it's very graphic, and really I feel uncomfortable saying it, but I will, just for context of the film. When he says Houdini, it's really spitting on her back while doing her doggy style, and when she turns around, he just in her face.
Yeah, this whole scene wasn't needed.
No, it definitely was. It just shows you what people in Adams do. Not a lot going on. It's got probably a population under 100, right?
Yeah, so he's got Houdini. The 2 kids are walking, and they meet up with Rufus and the other guys, and then they punch Bill in the face, so then they can all beat up Carlos, and then Rufus starts to unzip his pants, and he says, I'm gonna pull a deliverance on you.
Yeah, I think he really wants to give Carlos that fear, because right around Carlos is just messing with him the entire movie. Mm-hmm. And he thinks he can just kind of boss him around like this outsider telling me who I live here what to do and like just being fucked up to me. He's like, I'm going to scare the shit out of you. So just by saying deliverance, kind of like undoing his suspenders. And I've seen the movie, so I know what happens. They basically rape a fat guy in the woods, and it's kind of like replaying it here. Obviously, Carlos is just screaming at the top of his lungs, and you see the fear in his face. And he's like, I'm just kidding with you. I'm just fucking messing with you. And then they start walking away.
So then if you forgot he was in the movie, we cut to Mike. And he's walking with the girl that he beat with the phone, and now some new fat girl. Honestly, don't know what to say about her. We've never seen her before. We have no idea how she is now in this movie.
Yeah, she's an outside character. She will come around later because she bears witness to something in the woods.
As they're, like, walking, Mike says some other, like, dirty things, and he starts to, like, take his pants off because then the new character is like, I don't want to see that inchworm.
Yeah, I mean, Mike's girlfriend, I think her name's like Marie or something.
It's Marie.
Marie says, oh, there's so many bugs here. And he's like, it's not the bugs you have to worry about. It's the snakes. And then he whips out his dick.
Yeah. You don't see it, thank God. But the Scarecrows come, and they hold down Mike, and the new character runs away, and they swing. You don't see any impact, and then they cut to Mike, and you just see ketchup on his forehead.
Yeah, so they take what I like to call the Friday the 13th method, where you'll see like the machete come down or the large tree branch or whatever they're using because they use multiple weapons, and you don't see the impact hit, but you see the after effect. You know what I mean?
There's no wound.
It might have been like a slice, a lot of blood on the forehead.
It's like a smeared red dye.
You can tell like this was a really brutal hit, really brutal kill here.
And well, it wasn't. And then Marie also gets killed. She gets held down and she also gets chopped.
This is classic horror movie. Marie probably runs a couple of paces, hides behind a tree. Why not keep running out of the woods? I don't know. But the Scarecrows, they need to kill, they need to feed. So they kill her. And the other lady that was with them witnesses the whole thing.
Yeah, she escapes. Then we cut back to Carlos and Bill, and they finally find Dickie, the mechanic. And they say, hey, can we get a tow? Dickie says no.
Well, there's a lot of bickering back and forth, and you see that now you get into Dickie's character. He's kind of like a dick. No, I'm just saying, he's an asshole. I get yeah. But he kind of threatens them. He's like, listen, I'm the only person around here that can give tows, and I'm not going to give you one. So you're shit out of luck.
They just say, well, this town is full of a bunch of crazies.
As they keep saying, like, you're crazy, he's holding a wrench. He's like, things are about to get messy around here. But, like, the best solution, let's just go talk to the sheriff.
And that's pretty much the scene. Yeah, so we cut back to the sheriff. And the sheriff and Brown are discussing why Brown left Springfield. And Brown admits it's because him and his partner were doing, like, a raid or something. And a kid had a fake gun, a 16-year-old kid. and Brown shot him in an instant because he felt his life was in danger.
I just want to say that Brown definitely did not want to tell this, but he had to, because now when you're in like this new town, this new partnership, obviously the sheriff doesn't want secrets. It'll come back to them.
He actually says that. Exactly.
And I agree with the sheriff. All cards on the table, and Brown's a great cop, and he tells him the way it is, and you could tell. This definitely bothers him. It's kind of like something that they go back to and they allude to later in the film. Because like I said, this movie does set up things very well, and you'll see that come to play later on.
Should we mention how Brown flubs his line, like, constantly in the scene? And you could clearly tell all of this was done in, like, one take without any care?
No. It was a very raw performance in Officer Brown, who's one of my favorite characters as well. I think he does a really good job, and he does play...
He stumbles over every other word.
What are you talking about?
When he's telling the story, he's like, it was a 16-year-old boy.
Well, I think you're making fun of his accent, maybe, because he's from, like, a different city and they have a different dialect.
No. It's more so he can't get the words out correctly, and they should have just reshot it.
To be fair, I didn't pick up on that. He seems like he delivered every line well. I think it was just really good character.
While they're having this conversation, Bill and Carlos walk in, and they say, hey, your mechanic's no help. Can you help us? And the sheriff says, my brother will be here in a week. Maybe he can help you. And they're like, that's not going to do for us.
Yeah, they need help today, and they're kind of pissed off at the sheriff.
Yeah, they're not happy. And they just leave.
Yeah, I mean, they really can't wait a week, but this is the only choice they got. And then after they leave, Brown's like, Sheriff, any reason why you didn't help them? And he's like, listen, I'll go myself. I'll go see if I could help them out. But the sheriff doesn't like this idea. He doesn't like this idea one iota. Because in an angry tone, he's like, you just do your paperwork. I'll deal with the tourists.
Yeah, so now we cut back to Carlos and Bill, and they find Scott tied up to the... He's not even tied up to the tree. He's like leaning over the tree.
He's hanging on the tree.
And he has no wounds. His shirt just has blood on it.
Yeah, it's probably a stab wound from the shirt.
Yeah, but there's no hole in the shirt.
No, I mean, like, it could be like they stabbed him maybe, like, under the shirt or over the shirt, and, like, it's just bleeding through.
Okay.
And he's also bleeding out of his mouth, too.
Yeah, but with no stab wounds anywhere. And if you don't notice, his hand is kind of moving in the background.
Well, we saw this, remember from Final Destination? I forgot what it's called, but you gotta have, like, these, like, slight, like, muscle spasms even after death, and I think that's what's going on here.
Oh, yeah.
I know what you're thinking. You're thinking I'm just, like, overly defending this movie, but...
Yeah, it's exactly what I'm thinking.
For all the things that you're saying, I really do think there's explanations to them, in all honesty.
I feel like it's more like an alone-in-the-dark situation where they just didn't realize the person had moved.
So this is Rise of the Scarecrows. That is a completely different animal there. Like, you're talking about... This is like comparing apples to oranges. It's completely different.
I can't wait until we have Ool Bowl month. So, you know, that scene's over. And now we cut to the scene that is in the movie for no reason other than so this movie can say it had tits in it. Because we cut to this woman we have never met, and she takes all of her clothes off, gets in the shower, and we just watch her shower.
Yeah, it's a long shower scene. I think they may have overdone a little bit. It's a little too long, but I like the fact that she likes to be clean. She grabs a Berto VO5, which is one of my favorite shampoos, and she gives herself scrubbed down. She has to look good, because her husband is very, very demanding. Her husband's Dickie, by the way.
Yeah, I mean, this scene establishes one thing, which you already know, and it's why it's not necessary. Like, she didn't have to be naked while any of this happened. Dickie also just looks at Playboy on his chair. It's like the first thing he does when he gets home.
He's very interested in the Playboy, too, because he's, like, peering through the magazine.
He looks really quick. He ain't
like,
reading the articles.
But he's like, oh my god!
He does do that.
I'm like, wow, must be something good in there.
Yeah,
Unless
apparently.
it's just kind of like rehashing Troll 2.
So all they do, they talk. Obviously, Dickie reveals that the sheriff is why he couldn't fix those guys' car. And, like, you understand that. He asks his wife, what are we having for dinner? She says, we're going to my parents. He's like, I hate your parents. They're assholes. And she's like, my parents like you. He's like, I don't care. They're assholes. Go fix me dinner. And she's like, well, what do you want? He's like, what the fuck is this, a trigonometry class? You go figure it out.
He kind of loses his shit. He wants dinner. And she finally makes him dinner.
Yeah, and then, like, he loses his mind over something. Now, what is in the pot?
Honestly, it looks like eggs.
I thought it was mashed potatoes, maybe?
Maybe mac and cheese, mashed potato, I don't know.
Regardless, he shoves her face into it, and the scene ends.
He gets angry. It's kind of dumbfounded because they mention that he's working on this guy's car for $2,000. She's like, well, why would it cost $2,000? He's like, a timing belt went. And he's like, well, that's a really scummy thing to do. She thinks that he's ripping this guy off. By scummy, he thought she meant scumbag, and he does that, and he fucking puts her through the pot because he's a fucking asshole.
This whole scene doesn't need to exist. The movie is an hour and 34 minutes. I could probably chop this bad boy down to an hour 15.
I know, I mean, like, they really like to give you an in-depth look at these characters and how each one of them is just really pissed off at some other event that's happening in town, whether it's a different
They're barely
person.
characters.
No, I mean, they give you a pretty good in-depth look at each one of them individually and what they're experiencing in their own household or in their own situation. And I like how they do that.
So then we cut to the police officers back at Pete's house, and they find Pete dead on the floor. The sheriff instantly leans down and says, "You should have kept your mouth shut." And then this is like the best frame job I've ever seen, where the sheriff's like, "This is an open and shut case. He fell down, the easel killed him."
Yeah, I mean, obviously he's got stab wounds because, I mean, the Scarecrows, when they rise up, they don't rise just to hit you. They rise to slice you, and they'll slice you right through your clothes. They'll really get you good.
Which Officer Brown even says, "Sir, there's stab wounds everywhere." It's like, yeah, the easel's really sharp.
I mean, like, he'd have to probably fall on the easel in an interesting way that it would have to cut him a couple of times.
He would have had to fallen down on the easel about 10 times. Also, mind you, there are still no stab wounds on this man. It's just a man covered in red dye.
No, it's a lot of blood. There's a lot of blood everywhere. Like I said, this is a gruesome scene. And this is where Brown knows, okay, this is it. The sheriff is corrupt.
Yeah, because the sheriff says, "I've seen this 100 times." So he's seen 100 other people fall on their easel and die.
And even though, like, this might be a cold scene for the sheriff, I think the sheriff did have a relationship with Pete. He was like the old crazy guy, but the thing was, he would pay him a visit once or twice a week. Good old community relations he refers to at the beginning of the film. So even though he said a little bit too much, a little slip of the tongue, it was tough to see him go. But Brown definitely knows the sheriff is involved.
Brown asked the sheriff, he's like, he mentioned scarecrows, and I'm like, did he mention the tooth fairy too?
Leprechauns, fairies.
Yeah. So then we cut back to the sheriff's office, and the boys now tell the sheriff that Scott is dead, and the sheriff couldn't give two shits. He said, "I'll check it out later. He'll still be dead when I'm finishing my paper."
Yeah, he's like reading his newspaper the whole time, kind of like not paying them any mind. And they're fucking getting even furious because every time they go to the sheriff, he's giving them nothing.
Yeah, he says Scott probably fell out of a tree. Another horrible accident. Doesn't care about this situation at all.
He does tell them, he's like, "Look, listen, I'll send the paddy wagon down there. They'll take care of it."
Doesn't he say the meat wagon?
Isn't it the same thing, though?
Is it? Yeah, I guess it is.
He sends the meat wagon down there. Come back tomorrow morning and then we could talk about it some more then. Brown's like, "Alright, guys." Escorts them into the next room and he's like, "Listen, boys. Adams has some dirty hands in it and some things need to change." And I like this because Brown's like, "Okay, it took me a while, but I finally got a good idea of what this town's about and now I'm ready to take action."
Yeah, so they come up with this plan where, like, Brown's gonna investigate the sheriff by looking through all of the files. Bill and Carlos say that Scott was torn to pieces, but he was clearly intact with no wounds.
No, I think he was torn up, though. I mean, you can't probably see you're talking about the wounds from the shirt?
Yeah.
Probably suffered a lot of internal wounds because he was bleeding from his mouth, so it was definitely something probably from the throat or the stomach where maybe underneath the shirt.
You know what's just as bad with this movie? Of like, all this is so bad. This movie doesn't even have a passion bomb. Like, there's no passion in this movie.
No, there isn't.
I don't even want to recast anyone in this movie. I just want it to end.
No. I mean, there's no passion. The passion wouldn't have fit. Like, we're gonna throw passion in here.
Maybe the brothel, if it ever got built.
Yeah, maybe the brothel or if like Maureen came into play. But Maureen was already done, and that was a good part of the story because Bill had to move on from that. That was the whole idea.
Yeah, this movie, it gives you nothing. It's a big pile of nothing. Except for Pete being absolutely hilarious.
Very funny. Very funny. It's a funny movie.
So, now we cut back to the police station where Brown is looking through the files. And then we instantly cut back to Brown with the two kids, Carlos and Bill. And he tells them about all the missing persons and all the deaths and how each one has been ruled a suicide or an accident.
Yeah, I think at this point, Brown's like, "I need to pay Dickie a visit and ask him about those scarecrows," because he thinks Dickie's also involved. And he's like, "There's two ways of handling this, guys. The easy way or my way." And this is why I love Brown, because now he's all for it. He's going to take this bull by the reins. And he's going to fuck it.
Well, he goes to Dickie's, and they have a fight where no one connects with a punch.
Bullshit.
But everyone acts like they're getting connected.
Bullshit. Like, this is how hard, Brown is. He's off duty, and he's ready to throw down. You see him going like this black tank top, not with the police officer outfit. He's looking to stir some heads. Dickie is sleeping. So Dickie's gonna ignore Brown, but Brown makes sure he gets the fuck up. And Dickie's like, "Oh, you pig! Get off my property, you pig!" And when Brown refuses, he tries to land a sucker punch on him. Just rocks him in the face. Down to the ground. All he needed was one punch. And he's like, "Dickie, you tell me everything you know. Everything." And Dickie's like, "Listen, this town is a nightmare. I'm not going anywhere near that new campground." And Brown tells him, "Listen, you're one of the reasons why the Scarecrows are here." And he's like, "I'm not the reason. The devil himself created those monsters, Shane."
I guess. I mean, there's no information that would lead you to believe that. All you know is that the sheriff killed construction workers and then they came back.
And I love this part even more because they're not even done yet. Brown's about to leave. Dickie gets back up from getting one punched. He starts to talk more smack about him being a pig. He's a disgrace to the force. He's going to tell the sheriff about this. And Brown's like, listen, I'm off duty. And to prove that, he slaps his badge down, goes back up to him, and Dickie's like, officer, you just made the biggest mistake of your life. And he punches Brown. Brown mocks the punch. It doesn't even affect him.
It doesn't register with him.
And what does Brown do? Power bombs him through garbage cans.
Kind of just pushes him.
I know, but still. Definitely just tosses him through the garbage cans.
And that's that, because then we cut back to the police station. I feel like we've spent the majority of the movie cutting back to this police station. And then Brown pins the sheriff to the wall and says, you're going to tell me everything, pretty much.
Yeah, he's had enough. And Brown's like, listen, when you were talking about the higher law, you were talking about those scarecrows. And the sheriff's like, sit down, let's talk. Listen, you're not off to a good start in my department. And obviously this is a very strong police force that this may hurt his feelings, but at this point Brown doesn't care. Brown tells him there's too many people missing, and it all dates back to October 10th, 1990, the day Shane was born.
Not true.
The sheriff says there's missing construction workers. And he also says that, listen, these construction workers, they never went missing. There are a lot of strikes. They came here and they went somewhere else. No funny business. Nothing fishy. And then Brown brings up the good old boys, him and Dickie. They went out there and they wouldn't let the construction workers leave. And the sheriff's like, listen, you're walking on some pretty thin ice right now. Gives him a little bit of a threat, a vague threat. Brown tells him even further. He goes, hey, listen, punk, you had it all under control until now. They're starting to creep into the town. And the only way you can buy time for them to feed on the town, you're bringing out outsiders
to feed the scarecrows.
To bring them to the woods to feed the scarecrows.
So at this point, Brown quits and says he's going to bring the real police. All of this scene is poorly acted, it's poorly filmed, and I'm just getting tired while watching this. The movie starts off when Mike and Pete are alive. It has this kind of funny thing going where it's oh, at least these characters are entertaining and funny. Now, I'm just miserable watching this horrible, horrible movie.
Can I tell you the truth?
Yeah.
I really wish they made merchandising for this movie, because I'd love to get an Officer Brown shirt. I love how encouraged he is, and now he wants to solve this town's problems. He doesn't know anything about this town. He just came in here maybe a couple days ago. But he's going to take it on himself to serve and protect everybody here, and he's going to take this evil down. He's not even fighting people anymore. He's fighting demons.
Yeah.
Or so he knows to this point. He doesn't really know what's going on yet, but he's been told varying things. We just, as the audience, know he's really fighting demons.
None of it matters. It's all so bad, and none of it matters anymore. But let's just cut to the next scene, because now Officer Brown goes back to Carlos, and he goes back to Will, and he says, everything about the scarecrows is real.
Everything you've heard is real. The sheriff will do anything to keep it a secret. There's no telling what he's going to do next. Then Brown immediately gets a call. He finds out that the sheriff has a girl at the campsite, and he's got to meet him there. Because if he doesn't, the sheriff will kill the girl.
Which we don't even know who the girl is. We'll find out in a second, but...
Because this movie always loops things back from the beginning.
Let's not get carried away.
No story will be left untied in this picture. Great program.
So he tells Will and Carlos to take his car and he will deal with the problem. But all three agreed they need to do this together to get the girl. They don't devise any plan because when you get there, you'll realize they never had a plan to begin with because it's all a mess. Now, this scene, some inspirational music starts to play and there's a montage of things.
Yes.
And it's so bad.
Can I give you just a little backdrop? Because I know Shane's going to tear this apart and I just think it's bullshit. First and foremost, Brown is going to go in there willing to do anything, right? Bill and Carlos are in defense of Bill's friend, Scott, and Carlos is just going to go for the ride. They're going in. Who knows what's going to happen? And they're assuming that Brown's going to go in there. He's going to kill the sheriff. They tell him, you're going to go to jail for murder. He's like, I'd rather be judged by 12 than carried by 6. And I'm like, holy shit, Officer Brown's the fucking boy. So, as Shane mentioned, there is a slow motion sequence, and it's very dramatic, and it actually hits home, because it's like he's picking up his gun again. He's like, the last time I used this, I killed somebody, and I'm gonna have to do this again. So you can see how there's an inner conflict here, but he knows what he has to do.
Great. Yeah, all this really matters. Officer Brown, then in this montage, you realize he has 3 kids, because, just randomly staring into the mirror with 3 kids' photos, and he, kisses his hand and touches all 3, and I'm like, This fucking, 11th hour, 3 kids storyline comes out of nowhere. I'm like, alright, whatever. Please, let me just get through this goddamn movie.
Well, they don't want to blow the load too early, meaning they give you all this backstory about his kids, is this going to come into the picture somehow and cloud this already compelling story? But they do it now, because, he's kind of, has these other conflicts going. They don't want to muddy the water, so you see now, this has been all along what he's kind of fighting through. He wants to be there for his kids, he's divorced. But now that his life is being threatened, he never expected to be threatened here. And now that it's come, like Shane mentioned at the 11th hour, he's worried about the fact that he might not return home to his kids. And I'm just like, wow, this movie definitely struck a chord with me here.
Cut to the woods. I'm sorry, I'm just getting tired while describing this. I'm so bored. The sheriff is in the woods with the woman who was originally with Mike. Not Maria, the other one that I don't think she has a name.
Yeah, I don't think so either.
They see the Scarecrows, and then the sheriff shoots her?
No. He actually raises his gun, does the Friday the 13th special, raises the gun to hit her with it, but the screen goes black. You know that he knocked her out with it.
Okay, so that's what he does.
He can't kill him. The Scarecrows
have to do the business. So, after all that, now we see our last 3 survivors. Officer Brown, Carlos, and Will are in the woods. Dickie now is also there with the sheriff and says, they're really there for no reason. The Scarecrows could take care of everything.
He's like, the Scarecrows are going to kill them. Why are we here? There's no point to be here. And then the sheriff's like, one way or another, this is going to end tonight. Brown is cool, though, because Brown has a plan for them. He wants Bill and Carlos to split up, canvas more ground that way.
Yeah, it's the worst plan ever. Because the next time we cut to Carlos, he's surrounded by the Scarecrows, and one chokes him out, and he accomplishes nothing. He's just dead.
Yeah, but he poses a good distraction for the others, because there's going to be some fights that the others get into. So it's kind of a noble death. It's a little redemptive story. After all the bullshit.
Noble? He didn't even know it was coming. He turned around and got choked out.
He went with the boys because he knew he wanted to help this town. He wanted to get everybody out of it in defense of the Scott, who he kind of ridiculed for the beginning part of the movie. This is his redemptive arc and being a hero. So yes, he did go out prematurely. Yes, they kind of jumped up on him 3-1, but it took 3 Scarecrows to take him down. I see you, Carlos. Good for you, buddy.
So after Carlos is dead, Bill and Dickie start to fight in the woods. They fight over a machete. It looks like 2 children having a fight after a day at middle school where they're kind of just rolling on top of each other, missing punches, until eventually Bill gets the machete and kills Dickie without making any contact again. It's the same thing. I'm so sorry. It's just the same repetitive, awful thing I'm watching.
I'm going to step in here because I'm going to say that's total nonsense. He actually slices him up twice. 2 hard slices right to his gut. Kills him dead.
So then we cut to Officer Brown, and he sees the sheriff, and he sees the 3 Scarecrows. And I guess this is Officer Brown's heroic moment, because he literally goes to fist fight the Scarecrows.
And boy, does he ever. He's such a badass.
I actually have a question, because maybe I did miss this. Officer Brown has a gun.
He does have a gun, that's correct.
Why didn't he use it? I know it doesn't affect them, because we'll learn that in a second, but why wouldn't he try to use it?
I think it happens too fast. There was a dialogue. He didn't have enough time to pull the gun. And to be honest with you, his fists hit like bricks, as we saw with the Dickie incident earlier. He can do some damage, and I'll tell you what, he knocks one out pretty much.
Yeah, then he takes an axe to the back.
Yeah, well, there's 2 more. They're gonna gang up on him.
So then the sheriff shouts at the Scarecrows, hey, do your thing, finish this guy. The Scarecrows kind of just stand there. He then shoots the Scarecrow, which has no effect, and the Scarecrows kill Sheriff Howard.
Yeah, it's really cool because the sheriff's feeding them this whole time. But as they mentioned earlier, these Scarecrows have been encroaching on the town for a while. It's almost like they're evolving. So feeding them is not going to do much any longer. They're hungrier. And even if the sheriff's been feeding them for all this time, they don't even care about the sheriff anymore. They'll get their own food. So yes, they feast on the sheriff.
Yeah. So Bill then finds Brown on the floor and he says, I can help you. Brown's like, no, just get out of here. I'm done. So then Bill runs off, but he runs into Rufus. And Rufus, he does this thing where it's he's also known all along about the Scarecrows.
Yeah, he's known about it. And we really don't know because we only see these collective characters, but who else knows about it in town? Because this might be a thing. People just might not go in the woods. Who knows?
Yeah, so just to wrap this piece of shit up, Rufus just gives Bill to the Scarecrows and the movie ends.
Not quite in that quick a fashion. I mean, they walk through the woods, both Bill and Rufus.
Uh-huh.
And Rufus is like, listen, it's break time. Let's relax. Literally calls for a break time to sit down. You think in every horror movie, why would you do this? Just get out of the woods. You need to find help. And he's really begging Rufus for help. But it's like, relax. Why are you in such a hurry? And then, like Shane says, he unveils kind of how he knew all along about the Scarecrows. And like, why would you guys even come here anyway? They're just gonna kill you. Humans can't beat demons. And then he tells Bill, one of the Scarecrows looked him in the eye. And now he knows what his purpose is here. And the second he says that, he takes a thick branch and smacks Billy in the face with it, knocking him out. It's almost like, I don't know if the Scarecrows are possessing him, or if he's going to be like the next sheriff and maybe even bring more food to them. I don't know, but I can tell you one thing. Like I mentioned, the Scarecrows are growing, and they're going to need a lot of food.
I think I did the audience a favor when I said he feeds them to the Scarecrows and just end it, because you're just throwing all this detail out here to make it sound important.
Bullshit.
But none of it matters.
And the last scene, which is a very haunting scene. Bill wakes up from getting clobbered by Rufus, because Rufus has got that quick slice. He looks and he sees the Scarecrows. You just see the sheer horror on his face. He just screams, and there's like a screen freeze on him, and you can just like look into his eyes, and you can only imagine like what he's seeing right now is something that nobody should ever experience. And then the film ends.
Thank God. This movie was an hour and 34 minutes. It easily could have been an hour and 10. It definitely should. I'm going to rewrite this movie. It doesn't get written.
Wow, how can you even say that? We definitely did not. I know we watched the same movie, but I feel like we just completely have missed on almost everything we watched.
Yeah, so look, in all seriousness, it comes off as a high school, college film project. I don't fault anyone for wanting to make that. Go ahead, go out there and live your passion in making movies. But like, this is not a movie that should be available to watch on Amazon or like Tubi. It's low level. You know what? It's fine. You made your movie. It's a learning experience, but like it shouldn't be something that like is recommended to watch on a website like that, because like it's a long sit. It's a really bad movie.
I'm going to disagree with you. Respectfully, I think that it's a very easy sit. I think it's very entertaining. The characters are hilarious. They're clever. They're very well written. There's a lot of gore. There's a lot of blood. I just think there was a lot of thrills in the movie. It was very exciting.
Well, with all that said, obviously my rating for this movie is a 1 out of 10. The cinematography doesn't exist. The sound barely exists. The soundtrack exists but shouldn't.
Wow.
The acting is not even acting. Besides Pete, who just narrates his entire life, the blood is bad, the kills are bad. The best part of the movie is how funny Pete and Mike are for their limited amount of screen time, and that's not even going to bump it above a 1. It's a 1 out of 10. Brian, take it away.
Yeah, so this is one of the easiest reviews I've ever had to do. Obviously, I feel like I've had to defend this movie the entire time after Shane has ripped it entirely apart. The movie starts with the characters. I always say the characters are the most important part of a film, and each character was written with intent and purpose. They don't cut any storylines out. Everything kind of filters into the end to the build-up last scene of Bill dying, and the town of Adams kind of keeps swarming with this legend of the Scarecrows being risen up. I like the backstory is very good. The dialogue is very good as well. No passion here. There's no romantic scene, which is fine. You know, we do like passion here on Two Guys, One Necronomicon, and I'm not going to fault it for that. It wouldn't have fit here, as the passion would have probably took this film off course, and it had such a good flow. The entertainment value is there. And everything being said, I'm going to give this movie a 2 out of 10. And while I was thinking about giving it a 10 out of 10, I think 2 is a fairer rating. All things considered. Sound is great. Editing is superb. Acting is very, honestly, underrated.
I'm being punked right now. Is Ashton Kutcher coming out from under your bed?
I can't settle on anything that's like 6, 7, or 8, because I was either going to go 10 or go 2, because it's definitely not a 1. You gave it a 1, that's your opinion, that's cool. But I would say it's above a 1 because it's definitely watchable. A couple things here and there, and this is probably what prevented me from getting it a 10, is that, you know, you do see some cameras and windows, you do see some shaky cam in some areas that are like a little off-putting, so it's not a perfect film. So because of that, I'm probably going to knock it down to like a 2, but it's a very strong 2 out of 10.
I have absolutely no words. I'm at least glad you gave it a 2 out of 10.
Yeah.
Say that.
But like I said, it's very enjoyable. Anybody watching, please give this one a watch on Amazon or Tubi. It's a thrill ride. Maybe people won't like it as much as I do. Rest assured, you will be fully engaged. Because this is a train that ain't veering off the tracks. And a couple of cool things about this movie that I have not mentioned yet, which I'd love to just say before we end this episode, that it was actually filmed in 2005. It was not released until 2009, which... that is when we saw it.
It is. We saw it on release.
Also, the writer/director of this movie, Gino McGahee, he also did a little screenwriting for a film that came out in 2019 called The Haunting of La Llorona. This is, of course, not to be confused with the 2019 film flop, The Curse of La Llorona, that it was in the movie theaters.
Yeah, I don't know if it flopped. I haven't seen it, so I can't say.
In terms of flop, it was pretty bad. So,
well, that was Rise of the Scarecrows, a movie that I'm sure almost none of you have actually heard of before we mentioned it on last week's podcast. I'm glad it's over. I'm glad we don't have to talk about it ever again.
It's a charming film, but it has big moments of horror in it. Any horror fan is going to appreciate this for sure.
Yeah. With that said, next week is our 20th episode. And for our 20th episode, we've decided to do absolutely nothing special. And we're just going to review The Wishmaster.
I think that's pretty special. It's not like any kind of like big, bad banger review.
No.
But it's definitely a solid 90s movie.
Yeah, no, I enjoy The Wishmaster. I'm actually really looking forward to talking about that movie.
I'm pretty pumped for it as well. Make a wish, Shane.
I wish that you never, ever bring up Rise of the Scarecrows again.
Wow, that is so ungrateful. You were given an absolute masterpiece. I cannot believe what you said. I mean, everyone has their right to their own opinion, but damn, man, it's so unfair. Anyway, please, if you like this episode, please watch all of our episodes. I can't believe we're on episode 19.
Yep, 20 coming
God
next.
bless. It's awesome. Thank you so much for your support and continue to listen to us. If you haven't already, please follow us on Facebook and Instagram at 2guys1necro. Also, give us a rating on Apple Podcasts. Please, 5 would be nice.
It'd be great. We'll even take a 4. Even a 3, maybe.
Give us whatever you want. I don't fucking care.
Yeah. So with all that said, we are 2 guys, 1 Necronomicon, signing off, and we will see you next week at the Persian Wish Party. And if you haven't already, please follow us on Facebook at 2 Guys 1 Necronomicon. Also follow us on Twitter and Instagram at 2 Guys 1 Necro. Also, if you can, and if you listen to it on Apple Podcasts, please throw us a rating on there. 1 star, 5 star, whatever it is, just let us know your feedback. Thank you very much.